I'm going to talk for a few minutes about nature in this novel, and then we can talk about the characters and discussions. Nature as setting, symbol, and character. T.S. Eliot writes about the affective fallacy of seeing in nature whatever mood is in the heart of man. If you're happy, you go outside and everything's fabulous. It's beautiful. You can see the sun glinting off the leaves, right? If you're sad, you go outside and everything's drooping. Nature mirrors your mood. However, the greatest romantic novelists from Joseph Conrad, Heart of Darkness, Lord Jim, Herman Melville, Moby Dick, Taipei, Emily Bronte, Wuthering Heights, D.H. Lawrence, Women in Love, have all used nature as a character in their novels, as well as a metaphor for the mind of womankind. Rindu is set on the pristine jungle island of Labuan, surrounded by the sea. As setting, the southwest monsoon almost destroys Rindu. Rindu means lovesick or homesick in Malay, and it's used in all the love songs. It's a yearning. Moored to the east of the jetty in the first scene, and is augmented by the squall which endangers the loadout of the furious jacket. This is the jacket. It's built, it's huge pipe, and it's built and loaded out onto a jetty and then onto a barge. And they move it off the barge and it sinks. And then they put a drilling platform on the top and drill through for oil. But that's what a jacket is. And the reason it's called a jacket is because these huge pipes are this big, okay? And they jacket the drilling that goes down. The setting drives the plot, monsoons. Elise sets out the meaning of water when she gets Ross a berth on the Soul, the sloop circumnavigating the globe. Do you realize, Ross, you will round the watery part of the world? Do you realize it is always the feminine in these men of the sea that has awakened? The feminine in men. This is a key theme. What does the sea surrounding Labuan symbolize? The fluid, the feminine. Notice how many times the motion and place of the moon is mentioned in this novel. It controls the tides, the flood and the ebb, and is connected with women's menstrual cycles. The sea is ambiguous. The logs rolling in on the tide save Ross and give him the idea to build Rindu. This actually happened. 4-foot diameter, 30-foot long logs rolled up onto Labuan, and we put them in the back of our little boat, took them to the sawmill, and we had free wood. It's unbelievable. Dark as it was on that blowy night, wild and heaving with the sea, he had never felt freer, never felt more buoyant. When Ross realizes he can build his vessel, he is happy. The author was very concerned about sound. Consonants, repetition of consonants, assonance, the repetition of vowel sounds, alliteration, the repetition of beginning consonant sounds. Dark as it was on that blowy night, wild, assonance, night, wild, long I. Heaving with the sea, assonance, heaving sea. He had never felt freer, E, E, E. You can go through the whole book and underline the consonants, the assonance, the sound. Water is the source of all life. Ross and Elise rise to the challenge of living off the water village in the harbor in Labuan. Ross also sees clearly how all the work on the Furious Jacket is part and parcel of the tides. On the loadout, and I quote, "The rising tide was the centerpiece of all the engineering and teamwork being realized almost exquisitely tonight, and the full moon rising behind him that was the pull upon the sea, making it all possible in the first place. You can hear it? On this night of teamwork from the heavens, from the sea, from the machinery and tackle, and from the men of this operation in step with the whole, striding power of the minutes in progress. How many times do people make love in the water?
From here to eternity.
Very good. Ross and Elise in the raft off of Pool Karaman. Angie and Ross after she waits for him on the beach and seduces him. Later when Elise returns from Singapore and they go up to Surrender Point. And of course when Tamara and Elise get caught in the thunderstorm in Queen Elizabeth Park next to the Singapore Lion, Merlion. They are raindrops in the sea. Thus the sea is freedom, sexual freedom as well as mental freedom, both for Elise as she swims out almost to Ramsay Point while the solitary watches and waits for her to return. However, it is also destructive. Elise almost drowns. The jacket almost destroys the tea-head because of the rising tide, and the barge, driven by the storm, almost destroys Rindu. The sea is a character, a force of momentum, and an integral part of the plot. Ross first stands on the jacket looking across Brunei Bay and thinks about sailing. But his schooner is moored, caught, not free. Wind. We learn a lot about wind in this book. There is a southwest monsoon, the northeast monsoon, and the inner monsoon, when there is no rain and no water in the island. There is the land breeze in the morning and the sea breeze in the evening. When Ross, Tamara, and Elise climb the Mummy Island, Rusakan Kachil, and finally reach the top, Ross says to wait and listen, and they hear the sea breeze through the trees, and then the sea itself. And Tamara kisses him and thanks him for this moment. These moments play in contrast to the holy hell of the dry sand and heat of the fabrication yard, with men in gloves and jackets welding inside of 40-inch pipes. The sea eagle is Ross's alter ego, living in the cashmere trees in front of Sabark, where Ross, Elise, and Daher built their schooner. Finally, he sees the pair of the eagles and watches as they go fishing. The lionfish, deadly and beautiful. The sea kraits, the sea snakes, deadly but with tiny mouths. The dolphins, not cute when in a feeding frenzy. The water buffalo, who are used to drive the plows for the rice paddies all over the island. The tail of the stingray, which killed Han. All these play as characters in the novel, as well as symbols for the deadly struggle in life. But life is also a play. The sharks, which had followed the tug and who surround Elise and Tamara in the dinghy to Pulau Papan. Elise's ride on the sea turtle. I actually have seen a person do that. His name is George Carras. He's a diver, French diver, we knew, and we were out near Pulau Karaman. He saw the sea turtle, jumped in the water, grabbed its arms. And of course, what did the sea turtle do? So we had to let go. When Ross swims out to Rindu, off the island, it is moored. He crosses the great formation of brain coral and hugs it. The setting becomes the theme. Life is struggle. The trees struggling for sunlight. The struggle of the coral. Clownfish hiding in the anemone. Ross thinks you could never drop your guard, even in eating. Ross speaks of his sympathy with the Malays and their view of the sun, Matahari, the eye of the day, in his comment, and on this day it opened and saw that all was good, after he survived the loadout, and a chastening of Christianity and its view of humans as sinful and creation a mistake, from the 2nd chapter of Genesis, verse 5. You know Genesis is made up of 2 authors. The princely authors, the 1st chapter of Genesis, where God is called Elohim. 2nd chapter, verse 5, God is called Jehovah. And throughout Genesis, these 2 authors read. It's It's a compilation of 2 different books. Stars are very important to Ross. If you have sailed, you know how significant they are. They determine your location, and knowing the brightest stars where they will be is crucial. Before he swims with Angie, there's a long paragraph discussing Orion, which comes up here every morning in September. If you get up tomorrow morning and you look southwest, you will see Orion. And it's like 3 stars, okay? And the shoulder Orion is Betelgeuse. The other shoulder is Beatrix. Rigel is down here, and this is south. And you can see it every morning if you get up at 6 here. Clearest star. The hunter following the bull, whose bright star is Aldebaran, is visible, and following the 2 dogs, Canis Major and Canis Minor, is Sirius. This continual hunt every night in the sky is a metaphor for mankind. A consummate geometry of will. Ross's motto is Taham Lagi Quat, withstand more strongly. And yet he quotes Conrad, to the destructive elements submit. These 2 almost contradictory aspects of Ross are mirrored in the setting, in the contrast between man's fabrication and the fecundity of the jungle and the water which surrounds the island.